here's the first few chords off of that Ed Bickert record. That's Alone Together. So for me, I heard that and I thought, oh, that's what jazz guitar is. And I've been chasing it and I've never found another record like that, really. My name's Ross Morgan. I'm a jazz guitarist in Ottawa, and I went to JazzWorks camp in 2016. My dad bought me an Ed Bickert record because I was starting to play jazz guitar. And he went to the store and he said, I don't know what to get my son. And the guy said, give him this. And that's one of my favorite records. I took my first guitar lessons with my dad. I was probably 6 or 7, and it didn't stick. But he showed me enough chords, and I think that helped. Just the fundamentals. We were doing Christmas tunes, and I guess there was a bit of Kenny Rogers in there. And there was always music in the house. And it wasn't serious, it was a hobby, but I played every day. Folk tunes, Fleetwood Mac, Green Day, and I was taking some guitar lessons with a guy named Lee Hodgkinson, and he was really, really great, and he lived near me in Richmond. And it wasn't until grade 11, my band director said, listen, our jazz band needs a guitarist, because it was a small high school and the one jazz guitarist had graduated, the only guy who knew 7th chords. She said, we're desperate for someone who knows 7th chords, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she brought a teacher in named Bob Denny. And you know, Ottawa educators will probably know Bob Denny. He's a busy teacher and player. And he said, here's 3 shapes that can get you through any jazz song, right? And they were simple chords, like 1, 3, 7 shell chords. And that set me off. You know, I got a really good start in my high school jazz band, and then I tried out for the Nepean All-City Jazz Band. So that was 2015. I was in that band, and that was like a full-time job. That music was so hard for me. I liked the deeper harmony, and I liked that I got to play the guitar. It was, you know, suddenly I realized, oh, this is an instrument you can play outside of your basement. And I ended up trying out for degrees, music degrees, and I went to Humber because there was a connection with my band director and Ted Quinlan, who's the head of the program at Humber. And I got talking to him, and it sounded like, finally, like there's a connection here, and it just seemed like a place where people were like me, and I could go study music in the city where Ed Bickert had worked. I heard about jazz camp from my band director, Neil York Slater. So he was leading the Nepean band, and he said to me, there's a scholarship and you should really put your name in. And so I went ahead, I put my name in, you know, if Neil says so, go for it. And I was very excited to spend the week at camp. It was pretty fun seeing how driven everybody was. They were all like practicing and talking about music all day, and at night there was these jazz jams, and that was the first time I had really been in that situation. But they had the levels of jazz jams, and I remember like going around a few of them and trying my luck at each one to see, you know, because I didn't know where I would fit at all. But I really enjoyed that, especially when some of the instructors came out. So they put me in this group with Lauren Lofsky, and I didn't know who he was. I knew about Oscar Peterson and I knew about Ed Bickert, but I didn't know that I was sitting with somebody who had performed with them and known them really well. And he was, you know, he was really friendly, but high standards for his players. And I felt like I was getting special attention because I was a, I don't know, a younger guy sitting in the room playing the guitar, and I had a lot of questions, and he was really generous. And he would say things like, put it in the pocket, and I go, what are you talking about? And he'd say, well, to quote James Brown, put it where it is. I go, all right. And maybe 6 months later, I got it. But he was pretty exceptional, and you know, he would spell out chord grips for me. Like I remember this one. I remember him showing me that when we were playing My Ship. with Betty Ann, who I'm sure you all know. She was in my group. By that point, I had only worked in a big band. I hadn't been in a small combo situation, but that's most of jazz music, is 3, 4, 5 people. And I realized just how much I like that. There's so much more freedom, more room for a guitar player, certainly, than a big band has. And I've made a point of trying to get into small groups with freedom ever since. That was my first experience, really. I remember meeting Gary Elliott there, and William Karn, Dave Restivo. These are a few guys that I didn't know yet, but I would go on to get to know pretty well. Like William Karn was later an ear training teacher for me. By the time I was in that camp, I had been accepted to go to Humber, but I wasn't ready to go to Humber yet. And I feel like the camp really helped me get ready for day one. Thank you, JazzWorks, for supporting young jazz artists in the city and continuing to be there for us.